Hello, world. We hope you're ready for a kick-ass podcast because this one is going to rock the world. Welcome to Track Talk After Dark. Let'srun.com co-founder Robert Johnson here, joined by Weldon and John and Eugene. Guys, I cannot wait for Sunday. The Dream 800s and the Dream 50 Women's 800 final and the Dream Men's 1500 finals are almost here. We basically have everything we want. Well, minus Hobbs Kessler, but the semis and the 8s and the 15 were amazing. The men's steeplechase is in the books. Hilary Boyd, your champion. Bernard Keeter, second. Mason Furlick, third. Sean McGorty, nowhere to be seen. Hobbs Kessler has gone home. Not devastated, but educated, according to Let'sRun.com message board posters. What did you guys think of Friday in Eugene?
What do we think of Kessler? We just got back from a bar with Hobbs Kessler. I didn't think much of it, about the kid a drink, and then I'm like, oh shit, John, this is highly illegal. Just kidding. We were at a restaurant. Hobbs was there. They had beer, and I realized
he didn't have a beer. Hobbs did not have a beer.
He did not have a beer, but he's too young to have one, which is crazy. So, do you want to start with the 1500s? I mean, we got what we wanted. As you said, stellar 1500 matchup, stellar 800 matchup. And it's going to be 110 degrees on Sunday. I mean, it's going to be absolutely nuts. It seemed I'm kind of worn down today, and it was like only 90 degrees.
Well, you haven't checked the latest forecast. The new high for Sunday is 113 degrees. So, Robert, you must be looking forward to it because you get to watch all this on TV and you get to sit in your air conditioning. Let's remember, Hobbs Kessler, he's 18. Cole Hocker can't drink a beer either, legally. He's only 20. So we've got... and he looked arguably like him and Centro looked the best of all in these prelims. I mean, look, I know we had the men's steeplechase final today and we had the men's discus final today, but I want to start with the 1500 because I watched those semis and I'm like, holy shit. I cannot wait 2 days to watch this final. I mean, Hawker and Centro just looking at each other. It reminded me of Bolt and Andre DeGrasse in the 200-meter prelims in Rio, where DeGrasse just took it out and ran like 1980, and he's just looking over at Bolt, and they kind of just smile at each other. They're like, yeah, we're going to be duking it out for the gold. I kind of felt that's what it was like watching Cole Hawker and Matthew Centrowitz today. The only thing is, I also think, Yared Nuguse and Craig Engels are really good too. I expect to hear from them, but it kind of feels like Hawker, Centro. This is the showdown that we first got it at the track meet back in December, the B heat of a track meet in December in California, where Centro he basically sandbagged Cole Hawker, ran him down to win the B heat of a 5K, sat and kicked on him. Then Hawker runs 350 in February, almost breaks the collegiate record in the mile, and we get the whole your move controversy. And now we've finally got it set up. The U.S. Championships, the Olympic trials final on the final day of the trials. Cole Hawker versus Matthew Centrowitz for all the marbles. As you can see, Weldon here is modeling the Let's Run Your Move t-shirt. I can't wait for this race, guys.
And if you don't have your Move shirt, it's too late. They've been sold out. I've kept like 3 or 4 in my private stash when they go big on eBay. But... it's going to be amazing. Well, are you going to wear that shirt to the thing? I want someone to sit either way. If Centro wins, you throw it to him to like dance on, like Maurice Green did that one time with a fire extinguisher. Or if Hawker wins, you can act like you're a fanboy or something. We can't go wrong. Either way, I'm taking credit for this. Like, I do think that I personally motivated Matthew Centrowitz. He was struggling with motivation. This Your Move thing triggered him. The T-shirts only helped. So we can, John, who's the guy at Oregon that sent out the Your Move comment? It's definitely helped Centro. He's on fire. And look, when I watched this race, afterwards, we're writing the quick takes, I thought, Centro and Hawker are on the team. Because Centrowitz is the Olympic gold medalist, the reigning Olympic gold medalist. We know he's insane. He's got a 13 flat 5,000 PR. He's got great 145, 144, 800 meter speed. He looks fantastic recently. And he distanced himself from the field, and Hawker was right with him. So we know that Centro's insane. Hawker's right with him. Who's going to beat them? We don't know about Nuguse. Yes, Nuguse beat him early in the season that one time, but Hawker just beat Nuguse. So, and that's in that first heat, it was Nuguse and Engels. They both look good. Like the interesting thing was like the top 6 were like separated by like 0.2 of a second. But if you just look at the results, no. Naguse and Ingles had more than those other guys. They were the inside move by Ingles was so good too. How he turned to the side and just didn't hit anybody. I mean, if that's Molly Huddle, she would have shoved like 3 or 4 people to the track, right? I mean, such a good
Robert,
move.
you say Engels looked good. I mean, he did look really good the last 100, but I was worried because he was boxed in. I know you say, oh, it always opens up. Don't worry about the box. And he, after the race, I asked him, like, we were asking him, were you worried at all? He's like, no, I was pretty sure I'd be able to get out of it. It was fine. And he did. But, he had to very delicately maneuver around Eric Holt to get out there. And then when he had running room, he looked fantastic and ended up winning the heat. But yeah, he definitely, you're going to have to be a little bit more careful with your positioning in the final where top 3 matter. And I'm sure Craig would like to win the race. But yeah, he looked good. And I just want to say, Robert, before you weigh in here, anyone who's watching the video show, this is what Weldon is going to be. This is fuel for the podcast. We've got a Dr. Pepper, which has been opened. We've got one 12-ounce can of beer, which has not been opened. And we've got a second 12-ounce beer can, which has also not been opened. So Weldon apparently needs, he needs some uppers and also some downers to get him through this podcast.
Still on East Coast time. A little bit tired today. One of the beers is for you, John.
Oh, thanks, Weldon. I appreciate that.
I was holding off earlier, not working. John might have been overserved at work. There's a couple typos in some of the recaps. You know what?
A couple typos. I mean, okay, I guess.
Wait,
I'm just gonna. That joke's too easy to make, so I'm just gonna hold off on it. Boom, roasted.
well, what were people want to know about drinks? What were y'all eating? What type of food was Kessler eating? Was he having it tested to make sure that it didn't have any nandrolone in it? I mean, this is serious type stuff. Like, what was on the menu there? Anything that could potentially test you positive?
I actually got a beef hero, and I'm pretty sure they gave me beef. It didn't taste like pork or anything.
But you can get tainted beef, John. I asked Ajay Wilson about that today. I did say to Ajay, the other sort of preliminary action today was the 800-meter prelims. Maybe we're sexist because that one's almost as good. It actually is better. On an international level, you have Ajay Wilson, the best 800-meter runner in the United States, the best purely female 800-meter runner in the world the last decade. It's facts, people. Raven Rogers, the silver medalist from last time, and Athing Mu, the U.S. leader, who may be better than both of them now, all going head-to-head with Kate Grace, Olympic finalist. And Chanel Price, former world indoor 800-meter champion, in there as well, who made her first final. I mean, it's great.
Not her first final. Her first trials final.
Trials final.
Yeah. She has made the U.S. final before.
So, I mean, but I said to Ajay, hey, have you been following the Shelby Houlihan case? And, paraphrasing what she said, she's like, not really. That was, super traumatic. I don't want to relive that right now. So tainted beef is an issue. We did not see. They did have pork on the menu, John. They did. We should have taken the young Hobbs aside and warned him what to eat.
Sorry, we're getting a sidetrack. I'd like to stick with the men's 1500. Then we can go to the women's 8. Then we can go maybe to the steeple and get ready for the women's 10K tomorrow. But yeah, I just think that Hawker and Centro are going to be the team, and then it's going to come down to Ingles and Naguse most likely. Could someone else make it? Yes. I mean, Heather McLean made the women's team. But it's just there's a different level of talent and success in the past. And I know these guys have run fast, but it's fascinating. Like a half second can make, a big difference in these events. So,
I'm going to put up a comment right here. Somebody wants to know, essentially, are we sleeping on Naguse? So, I don't know. Robert, you were all about Jared Naguse all season. He's going to make the Olympic team, He beat Cole Hawker earlier this year in a fast race. Loses to him once at NCAAs, maybe because he led the whole damn thing. So, are we making this a two-man race? And Craig Ingles looked good too soon.
I'm not counting out Ingles, and I'm not totally counting out Naguse either, though everything I've seen since I guess Naguse did set the collegiate record, so that's fair. But the comment here says I think he lost NCAAs because he was on the inside lane and he had to get out. If I'm remembering NCAAs correctly, Naguse had the lead coming off the final turn. And then when Hocker moved in front, he kind of moved in front of Naguse, but I think he was already clear, and I don't think Naguse was catching him at that point.
I agree. I always say the best thing about Let's Run is the visitors, but that's like a bad comment. We put it up on the screen. It's good enough to get on the screen, but Naguse led the whole thing. If anything, I think he might have lost because he didn't realize he was right on his shoulder. But no, he led. If he lost, I think he might have lost that thing because he was leading, and he's not been leading here. He's clearly running in the pack. If my complaint on Naguse is, now they said that he thinks that the strength-based training that he does is going to help him in the final, and that could be the case because he hasn't run that many track races, but I think he looks nervous. He's tense, relaxed. Centro's joking around, like whatever. So, but John, back to the box. Yes, I never think anyone gets boxed, but then on the podcast the other night you said, well, remember when Robbie Andrews got boxed? So today I'm watching that race and I'm like, holy shit, Ingles is boxed. John's going to be making fun of him if he gets boxed here. And then he did an inside move. But I'm going to refine what I say. You don't ever get boxed in the final. It will never stop you from getting top three being boxed. But in a semifinal, maybe, because the guys aren't going all out. In the semifinal, if you're top, top five, you're in. So they're not going all out, so it doesn't separate as much. In the final, they're going to be going all out. So even if you don't get out until like 50 meters to go, if you've got more speed than someone else, you're going to be able to get in the top three.
I mean, Asbel Kiprop, 2016 Olympic final, he wasn't boxed, but he was in horrible position. You still have to, positioning is still important. Like, if you're way back, you need to, he had to go so far wide and pass so many people at the bell that it just screwed him. By the time he got on Centro's shoulder, he had nothing left for the last 200. I still think positioning is pretty important. I mean, that's why Centro won the gold in 2016. But I want to bring this point towards our discussion of Hobbs Kessler, because we haven't really talked about him that much yet. Apart from, we ran into him at McMenamin's and didn't even actually say hello. He was just waiting for a table. But anyway, Hobbs Kessler, he looked mortal in this race, which I think is fine for an 18-year-old in the semifinals of the Olympic trials. I don't think Adidas needs to be saying, "Oh man, what a waste of money. This guy can't even make the US final." The one thing I noticed both today and in his first round heat, he did not try to get off the line hard at all. He deliberately sort of took a step back and kind of was able to content to sit at the back of the pack. He did that again today, and he went out and lost, and he was basically hanging there. I think he was still lost with a lap to go. And at some point I was looking over at Weldon. I'm like, this pace is quite slow. The time qualifiers are going to come from the first heat. He needs to get into position, because if you're in loss with 200 to go, you're going to have to run so far wide and pass so many people. Even with Kessler's ton of speed, it's very hard to do. So I was watching that. I'm like, I didn't think he ran great tactically. And then I ran into Nick Willis after the race, and he was watching it. And obviously the two-time Olympic medalist trains with Kessler sometimes. And I asked him, I'm like, what did you think of it? Did you think he made any tactical mistakes? And he said, no, I think he's just tired. He's had a long season. He's been running, he's been running a bunch of races. And he gets to the semifinal of the Olympic trials. Has this guy ever run back-to-back days of races at this level? I can't think of a time when he would have. I know he's doubled at the Michigan State meet, but 2 Olympic trials heats back-to-back days is a little bit different than that. I think he's had mentally, physically, emotionally with signing time pro, all that. It weighs on you. It's a lot for an 18-year-old to take in what's supposed to be a fun time. Your end of high school, senior year. So I don't think it's fair to be critical of him. I did mention, tactically it wasn't great, but he's learning. This is his first championship experience. I think he learned some lessons from this meet, and he's going to be hard for him in the next few years for sure.
Tactics didn't play any role in it. He went in the back to save energy and had absolutely nothing left. But watching on TV, I thought that perhaps I do think sometimes there's an advantage to getting up in the front. I always say a great place to be is either in the front and the back. When I used to tell the guys at Cornell, I'd say just don't waste any energy for the first 800. Shut your brain off. Make sure you're in position by 1,000. But in this case, he was out in the back and then just never had the kick. So there was really no excuses. But I do think there is a psychological advantage. If you go out up front, it kind of wakes you up and you think, I'm in it, I'm doing well, blah, blah, blah. But, in terms of the weekend, the guy absolutely maximized his money. I mean, I will reveal next week the rumor that I heard about how much he's making. But we told like if your goal in life is to make money, he did it. I mean, he's like making Matthew Centowitz money for the next 10 years, from what I've been told, which is absolutely. I don't want to say it's absurd, but it's kind of absurd. But hey, boy got paid.
Okay, first of all, some of y'all's takes are just terrible. He ran a tactically terrible race. Terrible. You cannot be in last place in a slow race with 200 meters to go and expect to make the team top 5. It's very hard, almost impossible. Aspinall Kiprot probably could do it, but like even if he had his normal kick, I don't know. Let me plug in like Centro's kick, the final 200 for his time at the final 200, and I'm not sure he would have made the top 5. I'll look at that. His kick wasn't as good as it was. I think it was the 7th fastest of people in the field the last 200. So he said he was flat. I asked him, I said, hey, did Ronnie and Nick give you a plan for a slow race? He said, yeah, they gave me a plan for every type of race. I did not execute it. So he's acknowledging himself, like the plan in the slow race is not to be in last place. He said, I didn't see him really try to move up. He said, I tried to move up, kept getting kicked out the back. So maybe he's just not used to like professional racing, because I didn't see much effort to get to the front before then. And then back to the Naguse thing. Naguse, I agree with the poster beforehand. Naguse had the lead, led the whole damn thing, and Cocker took the lead and cut him off. I thought it was like a Bush League move, and I hadn't seen anything like it, and I think it affected the race possibly to some extent. You guys are sleeping on Naguse. I may just go big on Naguse just to piss you off.
All right, wait. I wanted one more thing about the positioning, and this is totally inside baseball stuff, but look, if you're one of the 56 people watching us live right now, you probably do care about this inside baseball stuff. Do the American 1500 runners just bow down to Centro and let him get any spot he wants? Like, I know he's just amazing. He does this in pretty much every race where he's always in perfect position. But I feel like at this point, his reputation as a racer and just his accomplishments, they're so impressive. And the rest of the field, a lot of these people grew up in high school or in college watching this guy win medals for the United States, that they just let him get in position. They're basically like, oh, I'll judge my race off of Centro. And, I'll sit in 3rd or 4th behind Centro. And when he moves, that's when I know the race needs to take off. I just feel like I was looking around for the first, 200 of that race. And I'm like, all right, where's Centro? I'm like, oh, he's right in front. Of course he is. He's controlling the race. I just feel like they kind of give it to him too easy in these semis. He's probably going to advance, but at least make him work for it, guys.
Well, John, do you remember the Olympics? Every field, they don't just let him do that. I agree they shouldn't. There's like a sort of an alpha dog thing going along, but he does this with every field. He always gets where he wants to be. You can't just say everyone just like cedes to Centro. I think he's a tactical genius.
I think in US, some of them do. I mean, obviously he's very good at getting position, but the Olympic final, I don't think his game plan going in was not, I'm going to control this from the front and run a 350 race. He found himself at the front. He decided to stay there. And once it got to 800, he's like, well, I'm in the lead. It's a slow race. This is the best place to be because now I can run the shortest distance going home. He adjusted on the fly. That was a tactical masterpiece, but it's not like they just let him get in the front. And Janne Suleiman actually passed him with 450 to go, and he had to pass him back. But anyway, that's getting a little derailed here. I just feel like the Centro thing, I do feel like part of it is he's great at positioning. Part of it is Americans are a little in awe of him. And I don't think Cole Hawker is. I think Cole Hawker is like, after today, he might think, hey, I'm kind of on the same level as this guy. We'll see. Neither of them talked in the mix zone after the race, so we don't really have a take on what they said to each other.
First of all, that should be a fine. USATF should have a mandate that you speak to the media. I mean, where's the leadership? I'm serious. They should make them speak to the media. It builds it up. But I can't wait. I cannot wait for the race. Weldon actually made a good point because I just plugged in. I'm going to stand corrected. I don't rarely make mistakes, particularly me as a middle distance coaching legend of the Ivy League. But if you plug in like Kessler's final 300 and give it to if you give Hawker or Centowitz the final 300 and put that in for Kessler, he wouldn't have made the team. He wouldn't advance. He still would have been like half a second off of advancing. So he was too far back. You don't want to be in dead last when it's that slow. It's like a 3:43 race. So, but I just think if he had anything, like his close wasn't great. I mean, he passed, he went from 12th to 8th or whatever it was. But if he had anything, he would have never been in that spot. Like he said he tried to move up. I never saw him move up like that. But watching on TV, I didn't realize who he was. I assumed he was Sam Prakoff selling an Adidas jersey. And I was like, oh, he made it. I'm like, why did they say anything on TV? Then I looked at my results page. And I was like, oh, damn, man, he didn't make it. Another person who didn't make it, Ben Blankenship, wasn't a surprise. He's only been running for 3 weeks. But, John, the guy that you've beaten, the guy that you love, who gets no respect, people think it's all about times. This guy's actually got a better mile PR than Cole Hocker. Johnny Gregorek eliminated, first guy out in the second heat.
Robert, that's unfortunate, but I'm still coming out of this Olympic trials with an Olympian scalp because I have beaten Woody Kincaid in a race. So overall, I think it's still net positive for John Galt in terms of transitive property at the trials. And by the way, there were people in the chat wondering, this right here, that's Weldon, and the guy on his own in his basement at 12:40 p.m. This 12:40 a.m. on a Saturday morning, that's Rojo.
I'm actually sort of fascinated by this comment with my genius comment. I didn't realize how genius it was. But this is crazy. So of the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys in that heat, so the 5 guys who advanced automatically, their final 200 only ranged from 38.16, Cole Hocker had the fastest, to the slowest was 38.62. So it's only 0.4. 0.4 is actually like more than you think. I don't know. You can figure out how many meters that is. It's probably a couple meters, but it's sort of crazy, right? Like, because Sinter and Hocker are way ahead. What Sinter and Hocker did was they ran harder the 200 before and sort of opened up a little bit of a gap on the field and then went slightly faster at the end. But like, it's crazy the fine line between these guys in a slow race. I mean, I'm sort of shocked that Centro and them weren't even that much faster than those guys. But in a slow race, positioning is everything, and that's what we saw at the Olympics.
All right, so I feel like we've spent 20 minutes here on the men's 1500 prelims. We should probably move on, but before we final. Are we going to talk about world ranking stuff, Robert? What else do you want to say about this race?
What do we think is going to happen in the final? There's a number of things to think about, and we just published an article. And by the way, I was shocked. We put it up on the homepage. It took us like 3 hours to get these recaps up. We want to do a good job and put it up. There's way more people reading the 1500 semi recap than the steeple final, but the question I have is, how do we think the final is going to go? Because there's a number of guys in this final that do not have the world ranking or the standard. Colby Alexander, David Ribich, Waleed Suleiman, and Eric Avila don't have it. So they can get top 3. They're not going to go to the Olympics. I mean, I guess it's possible they run fast enough. You get 100 bonus points if you win, but unlikely. But what's interesting, folks, is I've been wrong about this. I thought for sure Cole Hocker was in. He's right on the bubble. They take 45. He's at 45. He's literally like, they have 45, and he's right below it, but one of the people had him be American, so he'd be the last guy in, assuming no one else in the world gets ahead of him in the next 2 days. So now we've done the math. We've looked at it. You get 80 bonus points. If this race is 3:40 or faster and he's third, then he would move up 2 spots in the world ranking. So even if someone got it this weekend, he'd be all right. But by the way, the world rankings thing is an absolute joke. I mean, Amos Bartelsmeier is ranked ahead of Cole Hocker. What a joke. And I just said, Matthew, but if you're coaching him, do you tell him to worry about time? And my first thought was absolutely not. And there's an article in the paper saying where the coach, Ben Thomas, is like, we're just going to focus on winning because we think he's got the ranking. But they may be wrong now because a couple people have gone up. But I think he's good enough to get top 3. And even if he doesn't have the ranking for some reason, go out and chase a qualifier on Tuesday and he can run 3:34. That being said, I think I would tell him, just do this. Just make sure that the first 800 is at least 2:02. Then he'll run like 3:38 at a minimum. But it was kind of scary because I was like, this guy he only ran 3:43 today. And actually the USA final has been won in 3:43, 2017, 18, and 19. The last 3 times it's been run. So I'm a little bit worried about this. But if I'm him, I'm just focusing on the competition. I think if he's worried about this, no. What about you guys? What do you think?
Well, one thing, I talked to Nick Willis about this after the race because I asked him he's in the same sort of situation. He's ranked 49th right now. Hocker is 42nd. And I'm like, Nick, are you worried about whether you're going to get in or not? He said it was kind of 50-50, but he did point out a few things that, look, Hocker is not in the rankings quota right now, but there are some guys above him who are not going to take the spots. And then you've got other guys. So you've got Yanle Suleiman, you've got Taufik Makhloufi, Have they raced at all? Like, have you seen any results for them at all this year? Now, this is McLuffy we're talking about. He's famous for just emerging and then, coming out and kicking ass at these championships. But Nick was basically like, I've heard McLuffy might not even be running the Olympics. So there are some guys in here who aren't going to take their spots above him. And if Hawker can get any sort of a boost, I mean, I think we ran the numbers. If he runs like 343 or faster and gets third, or maybe it's like 340, he'll be in there. I think it will be okay. But yeah, Robert, you did mention the idea of in the article, like, if he doesn't get in, we need to sort of petition Seb Coe and say, let this man run. I agree with you. Seb Coe's been in town this week watching the trials. He's a miler. He always says this is the best event at the Olympics. If he watches Cole Hawker make this team and he doesn't get in, I mean, he needs to use some sort of special exemption and pull some bullshit to get him in the meet in the Olympics.
I mean, this guy Scott Dance on Facebook has a good point. It's going to be 110 degrees. I mean, I mean, that's just oppressive heat. None of these guys have ever run in that type of heat, raced. So what do they just get out there and it's just like, I can't do this. It's too hot. I'm not going to push the pace.
Oh, that's what I expect. I don't think anyone's going to go. I don't think anyone's going to try to run the standard because look.
No, but what if they just go out in 64 seconds?
Well, I
mean, the ranking thing has to change. If you're top, they should have a rule. If your country has 5 people in the rankings, you can pick your top 3 at the Olympic trials. Just make a simple rule like that. Or give more damn points. It's crazy how the ranking system works. Like winning the U.S. championships with a stacked field means no more than winning, I think, the Botswana championships. Like that makes no sense. The Kenyan trials, people have pointed out, it's technically not a national championship. So you get less points than if you win the Kenyan national championship, but no one gives a shit about. I mean, it's just like unbelievable.
Yeah, and Hawker's win at NCAAs, he beats a total stud in Yara Nagus. He runs 335, just one of the most impressive performances.
Come on, John.
Okay, he doesn't get enough bonus points for that. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous.
We gotta move on, guys.
Look.
No. The guy wants to know: is anyone not picking Centro in this race? Come on, let's go. Let's hear it.
Yara Nagus is not a star on the international scene. Let's be honest about that. But so the question is, because it's 110, do we think it's going to be slow? I asked John Kellogg. He's like, look, heat should not affect a 1500. Then I'm like 110. He's like, well, they might feel bad, but he's like, it's so short. He said, well, maybe a couple seconds. But the thing is, a couple seconds, because normally he could go out and easily run as fast as his close was at NCAAs. He could do it. So no. Is anyone changing their pick? I picked coming in. I picked Centro, Hawker, and I think I picked Nagus, and I think I'm going to stick with that.
I picked Centro, Engels, Hawker, and I'm sticking with that team. Hawker, maybe he's second instead of third, but I feel pretty good about those 3 as my Olympians. And Centro, I'm picking Centro for the win.
Yeah, for sure Centro's winning. I mean, I don't know who I picked in the contest. I'm liking Centro, Hawker. I'm not sure I'm going to get for third.
But, I just want to say, look, I expect Centro to win this race, but can I take everyone's minds back 10 years ago, this same track, U.S. Championships, Bernard Lagat, the reigning silver medalist at the World Championships, bronze medalist at the World Championships, against a young Matthew Centrowitz, fresh off an NCAA championship victory. Lagat's just owned this event. We think Lagat's, he's going to win, no problem. Centro shows up, beats Lagat, and you're like, oh my God, who is this Matthew Centrowitz kid? Could we see the same with Cole Hawker? Centro is 21, Hawker's 20. I think it's possible. Look, I'm just throwing it out there. I expect Centro to win, but it could be a changing the guard moment in the 1500 if Hawker wins it.
Yes, of course. Of course it could be. And I said on the podcast a few weeks ago, I think we had the thing, if you have the number 1 pick in the NBA, in the track and field draft, who do you take, Kessler or Hawker? The unknown about Kessler might make him more potential, but he's more likely to be a bust. I don't think he's going to be a bust with Ron Warhorse. But I eventually said Hawker because I know he's national champion in cross country. He has a better. It's not like Kessler's bad at endurance, but Kessler didn't even win the state title in cross country. So I think Hoffer is the safer pick. And I'm referring to that. If I had to pick one, that I'm more sure of. It's a safer pick to sign Hawker, to the endorsement contract than Kessler.
All right, let's move on. We've had half an hour on the 1500.
Wait, do you think?
Robert, we're
done.
cutting you off.
No, the Ice Vest is a good one. I think Centro
Okay.
and Hawker are going to have an unfair advantage because they're Nike athletes. They're Oregon
Engels
guys.
is Nike.
Robert,
They'll get ice vests if they want them. Brooks Beast athletes have been wearing ice vests.
No, but they'll
Whatever.
be hanging out in the air conditioning in the basement of the Bowerman Tower, and poor fucking Yerden Goose will be out in the heat, like trying to get near a fan.
Everyone's gonna have air conditioning. It'll be fine.
I agree. Something like that. There's probably like some cold room in the depths of this thing.
No, Alberto's gone. This is an Alberto Salazar thing that he'd find out some secret
There
room
was
within
one-
Hayward Field, the bowels of the stadium
No,
that Centro
we might
would go in and he'd, some sensory deprivation change it. I don't think that's happening.
I mean, at the Olympics, there was like one athlete getting ice hand delivered to them in the marathon. I mean, if you don't want the disqualification because of the shoes, it was Galen Rupp. Like the other people did not know about that, and Rupp's getting ice like put it on the thing draped on his neck, and no one else knew about it. It's kind of crazy. Okay,
I forgot about that.
Women's, we're not disqualifying them now. We're going to the women's 800 and with the steeple. Women's 800. I don't know. The first round, went from 43 athletes down to 16. I'm like, oh, someone big's going to go out. This round went from just 16 to 8. And I thought maybe somebody big would go out. There wasn't any drama.
What?
Well, there was a little bit of drama with Hannah Green, but like the big studs, Hannah Green won a Diamond League last year. I don't put her in the big stud category, but Thing Mo, Raven Rogers, who's looking very good, kind of resurgent, and Ajay Wilson, Kate Grace. I don't know. I guess she's very good with rounds. I don't think she's a big stud, but she's really good. I'm kind of putting her up there. They all look great. They all made it. I don't know. Like we're ready to go for the final.
Yeah, you're kind of picking nits in terms of who looked the best, but honestly, I think Thing Mo's looked the best through the rounds. I mean, she just glides down that track, the final 100 meters of her heats, and I would say that, I mean, the one woman who I kind of expected to make this final was Sabrina Sutherland. She's run 1:58. That's one of the fastest times in the U.S. this year. She did not run well today. She was, 7th in heat 2, 2:05, did not make the final. But the other ones, Wilson, Grace, Rogers, Price, and Mo, they all looked quite comfortable. I mean, the one thing I thought what was even more compelling, I wasn't even in this interview. Maybe one of you guys was in the Ajay Wilson Zoom call and can elaborate on this. But she was asked about her training coming in. This is a question we had because she hasn't really been racing the big trials prep races. She's been staying on the East Coast. She's been running at Miramar, Florida on that track. And she was asked about her training, and she said, definitely not exactly where I want it to be. But I think in the last 6 weeks, we've got some good work in. I'm excited to make it through the Olympic team and have the last few weeks to get to know where I need to be. And, that's kind of like, she said, it's been a bunch of random things. She wouldn't really elaborate, but, she said, I'm just thankful I've had enough time to pull it all together. And I went into this meet picking Wilson for the win because I was like, look, she's got the pedigree. She hasn't lost at USA since the last Olympic trials. She always runs indoors. She always runs outdoors. So that's quite a championship streak. But the fact that her training hasn't gone amazing this year, and the fact that Mo is just obliterating anyone placed in front of her, I now think Mo has to be the favorite for the final on Sunday.
Oh, for sure. I was in on the Zoom with Ajay and also on the one after her first round. And after the first round, I kind of asked about her training, and you can't really follow up with questions. You have to type in your questions. And I thought maybe she said her training was good. Then I'm like, well, maybe she's saying her training's lacking. And then this time she sort of confirmed it. And they're like, what was wrong? And she's like, I'll get into it afterward. She kind of laughed. It's like, you wouldn't believe the sequence of events. And then someone said, is it an injury? And she's like, I don't want to talk about it now. I'll talk about it afterwards.
Wait, are we tainted beef too? Electra Boogaloo?
I hope not.
No, she's been racing, so she kind of had some sort of ban.
So, I mean, who knows what it was, but so yeah, then now I'm sort of like, okay. And she talked about how strong the fields were. I think she's a little bit vulnerable. I think Raven Rogers is looking really good coming on. Raven essentially said, she switched coaches. She got the silver medal under Derek Thompson. She trained with Ajay in Philadelphia. And that's like a blue-collar training group. I mean, they go out in the winter, train outside. They don't have like a physio on staff, I don't think, all this other stuff. And I don't know what. She gets the silver medal, and then she moves back to Oregon. And now it's Pete Julian. And we're like, why did you change? And she's like, oh, I decided to leave my girls. It sounds like they're close. But she's like, I have everything at my disposal here. Like, we have a massage therapist, we have a weight coach, we have this and that. It's just like, it's a much more professional outfit. So I think they sort of also know each other, because then we were asking Ajay about, like, are you intimidated by a thing Mo's speed? She's like, well, I trained with Raven for, I don't know what, a year. She's like, Raven has tools I don't have. Like, speed is, I'm not that fast, but she sort of learned she still can beat these people. God, the more I think about it, I'm kind of worried about her. It could Yale's finest, Kate Grace, like, nip the third spot.
Well,
I mean, I think Kate's very good through the rounds.
All right, Robert is dying to speak. Let us speak. Robert, unload your takes.
the big news today was that we know that Ajay Wilson's been hurt. That's huge. She's not at 100%. She hasn't been running fast. She's been running low-key meets. That's putting a much bigger question mark. But that being said, she's won her heat. She looked pretty good today. So I wouldn't discount her. As much as y'all think Raven Rogers looked good, she ran in the back and kicked up for second or third. The fastest she's run this year is 1:59.66. I guess probably Ajay hasn't run any faster. But yes, Mo, today I learned that I thought she looked really good. She had an extra burst in the last 50. So I wasn't sure what I saw in the first round. She looked, fantastic. So, but I'm not sold on Raven Rogers. I don't think you're going to run in the back and make this team. I think this is going to be a barn burner. I think Mo's going to go to the front. I think she's smart. She has a good sense of pace. She does not want to go out in like 57, but even if she does, I think she could hold on. So, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be a really, really fun race. And like the men's race, 1500, there's 4 big names for 3 spots. I think another cool story, though, is Chanel Price. I mean, this was the high school phenom who didn't do anything. She was rabbiting in Europe 2 years ago. I know she did win a world indoor title when Steve and I were in Poland, I think. But it's just cool to see her running so well. And she says, like, I'm just not as obsessed about running as she's got a better balance on it. So one other thing. And there will be 9 people in the final. Some people in the chat are saying that Hannah Green should have been DQ'd. What are you guys talking about? She was running, and Sage Herter took her out from behind. So, I mean, she bumped her from behind. So, if anything, I thought that, I don't know. I thought it was the proper, Sage fell, unfortunately, and then Hannah got put in the final. So, I was fine with that.
All right, Robert, first of all, the idea that Raven Rogers running from behind and mowing people down isn't a legitimate strategy. Did you watch the 2019 World Championship final? That's how she won the silver medal. This is how she runs.
Oh, really?
She has an insane last 100. She comes from behind. Is she going to win the race this way? I don't know. It might be tough to run down a thing Mo, but I certainly think it's a viable strategy to get second. I mean, Nick Simmons made a career out of running this way. Dave Waddle, 1972 Olympic final. I think that's a fine way to run as long as you're not running a ton of extra distance, passing people on the final time. As for Hannah Green, I will admit that I think sometimes USATF officials are a little overzealous in advancing athletes with the merest hint of contact. I mean, we saw this with Heather McLean in the women's 1500. But watching this race back, I think, Hannah Green was clipped from behind. She didn't fool or anything. I don't think it's a travesty or a miscarriage of justice if Hannah Green doesn't get advanced to this final. But there was contact. It slowed her down. She missed out on the final time qualifier by a 10th of a second. We have 9 lanes in the final, so they're not going to run some waterfall start bullshit like they did in the 2016 men's trials final. I don't have an issue with this, but it will be interesting to see. Heather McLean made the team in the 1500. Could Hannah Green do the same thing? I don't think so based on how good this event is, but it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I've rewatched the thing a couple times, and now I see why some people want her DQ'd. I don't think it's a DQ at all. She's in front of Sage Herta, and Sage Herta broke her wrist. I mean, it's a pretty serious injury, so it's unfortunate for her. But she was in front of her, and they're like, "Why would you cut in?" Because it's kind of on the rail. Like, she's ahead, and she comes in here, and Herta clips her leg. I thought they were more perfectly in the straight, but I don't know why she did it, but she did it. Maybe there's more of an opening there, but she was in front of her. I mean, not completely, but if someone's in front and you move over, the person behind sort of, I feel like, responsible. I don't know. I don't have I don't have a problem with her being on the final because she missed it by 0.1. USATF sort of does that a lot. So I think Mo's going to win it. I'm liking Raven Rogers. And I think it's between, I can't believe I'm saying it's between Ajay Wilson and Kate Grace for third.
I think I kind of feel that way based on how the rounds have unfolded, though.
And I want to know the full story from Ajay. But that'd be crazy. This is the first Olympics without the intersex woman if Ajay didn't make it. But I think if she makes it, she'll in another month, she'll have a really good shot at the gold medal. So it's going to be great.
Robert, we can't hear you. You're going to have to unmute yourself.
You guys did watch the same race that I did where Ajay beat Raven today? I mean, this is weird. Very weird. And why did she move? Because Nike told her to move. We're going to put your damn name on the tower. It's actually disgraceful that, they probably needed a woman, but the way Cheserek has been treated by Nike is disgraceful. He should be on that tower. All he did at that university. But
Who'd you say, Robert? The way who's been treated?
Edward Cheserek. You don't think anyone, what Duck has done more for the Oregon track team than him?
Well, he won more NCAA titles, but what's he done as a pro? Raven Rogers has a world championship medal. Ashton Eaton had a world record and 2 Olympic golds. And Otis Davis was their first Olympic gold medalist. Clearly, they are valuing what you do beyond Oregon. And beyond Oregon, Edward Cheserek hasn't done anything.
When they announced the tower names, Raven Rogers hadn't won the silver medal, had she? They probably announced that way ahead of that.
I think she might have. She was also responsible for the iconic Triple Crown anchor leg in 2017.
Anyway,
but she didn't win 17 NCAA titles.
Let's get to the event that we were disparaging at the beginning, but we shouldn't have been, because the guy that was chatting in the damn chat box just 2 days ago, Daniel Machowski, has finished 4th in the Olympic trials. Normally you're upset when you finish 4th, but podcast listener finishing 4th, let's give him a round of applause. And he was pretty happy with it. Isn't he like a D2 guy or something? I don't know. John, tell us the story.
Yeah, he's a D2 guy. He ran at Cedarville University in Ohio for, and then he graduated. He ran 1 year at Indiana, almost won the NCAA steeple, but ended up falling on the final water jump. And then, tonight, he was right in it. He almost ran down Sean McGordy at Mount Sac, and he almost ran down Mason Furlick for the 3rd and final Olympic spot tonight. Mihalski. Oh, I'm sorry if I've been butchering his pronunciation the whole time.
I'm glad he said that, because I'm like, wait, guys, I actually listened to the press conference with him. We owe this guy a beer, John, so we got to get out of here and try to find him.
Yeah.
But it's spelled Michalski, I think, but it's now pronounced Mihalski. This guy, so in case you guys aren't listening or don't listen, you need to join the Supporters Club. If you're not a Let'sRun.com Supporters Club member, join now. You can hear this podcast on demand every day. We've been doing great podcasts. You can save 20% on running shoes. So buy a pair of shoes, you'll save $30 overnight. 20% off MSRP. This is great deals. You can get 20% off sale shoes too, but like a lot of places will not discount full price shoes. Great deal. Sign up now. But was it 3 nights ago? We were on here chatting. This guy starts chatting and we're like, John's like, that name's familiar. And we're like, I think he's in the steeple. And we're like, holy shit, this guy could make the team. He gets 4th place today. It was a great run. So if you guys didn't see the race, essentially Don Cabral, 2-time Olympian, he didn't have the standard this year, right? So he's kind of pushing the pace, hoping to get the standard. I don't know, sacrificial lamb isn't the right word. And then Hillary Bohr and Bernard Keeter sort of, take over, right? The last couple laps. That's when people are kicking. Isaac Updike is right there. Mason Furlick is right there. And a little bit back is Michalski. And they go to, so Bohr and Keeter are sort of ahead, right? The first 2. They've got that sort of wrapped up. The battle's for 3rd. And Updike and Furlick are pretty much together at the last water jump. And Michalski's not too far behind. Furlick pulls away from Updike. Michalski, and it's really fascinating to listen to this guy talk about the steeple. He was talking about, did you guys know this? Robert, you might know this. You used to be a coach. Certain about, I thought he said about the direction of the barriers, but certain barriers, the barriers to the finish varies on different tracks, the length. I didn't know, he's like, oh, you have more space here to run after the last barrier to the finish. I was talking to my coach what that would mean for the race. Also, where the water pit is changes the strategy a bit. But he's like, the water pit is his strength. And he's like, I didn't have a great final water pit. I think I would catch up. I kind of realized it wasn't going to happen. This was the most grateful 4th place finisher. he just was like, look, I'm blessed. He's got a young kid. He's like, he's like, God gave me gifts. I came, this is a great accomplishment. I don't hate it. Like there's a fraternity of steeplechasers. I'm glad Mason Furlick made the team. I roomed with him at Mount Sac. Like, obviously I really wanted to make the team, but I'm really glad and proud of Mason. He's a good dude. I'll room with him in the future. Like, I'm glad he made the team, and I'm not done. I want to keep doing this. He just has a great outlook on life. I felt like, and 4 nights ago, he's chatting with Robert. So is he a supporters club member? He might be the fast. We're going to have the supporting club PRs. Des Linden, she's got the 50K record right now. I don't know if we can go back and count your pastimes before you're in the supporters club, but like maybe we can make him an honorary one if he's not.
Well, we should give a shout out here. I mean, Hillary Bohr and Bernard Kita, they went 1-2 in this race. And the only groups that's gone 1-2 in distance race so far has been Bowerman. They did it on the men's 10K and the women's 5K. Got to give it a shout out to them. And they were both talking big time about their fitness afterwards. I mean, Hillary Bohr, I wasn't in his press conference. I read the transcript, though. It's like, yeah, I'm deciding whether I want to go to Monaco and run 8:05 or not. And I'm just like, what? You're just like, that's just a casual, like, oh, I'm going to run the second fastest time ever by an American.
See, John's different than me. I'm really jaded. Unless you can run under 8, I don't care. I'm like, oh, that's not that good. And so Hillary, I was on that press conference. Hillary Bohr, it was pretty fascinating. So his brother, Emmanuel Bohr, who ran there, 13, was trying to break the 5K records, running great this year. Didn't make the team at 10, but's got a chance in the 5K coming up. He's like, yeah, my brother was the steeplechaser in high school. I was the long jumper and triple jumper. Hillary Bohr, he was asked twice by Sarah Butler how tall he was. And he said, she asked like 3, because you have to type the questions. She asked 3 questions and he's like, I'm not going to answer to that one, and kind of laughed. And then she asked again. And he said, he's, depends. I'm 5'6" sometimes and 5'5" other days. So he's probably about 5'3". I don't know. Anyway, but I can't see this little guy like long jumping and triple jumping in Kenya. And also, like, why do people even bother? If any place they shouldn't even have the field events, I feel like it's Kenya. They don't have the facilities. But he said, like, look, they didn't have the steeple, so I couldn't really steeple. But then in the next sentence, he says his brother was a steeplechaser. I'm like, wait, how is your brother the steeplechaser if there was no pit? And he's like, oh, well, yeah, they didn't have a full facility, so I didn't do the steeple. But at like the local meets, they would just have hurdles, and they would do steeple without the water pit. And if you got good, like the regional meet, you did the water pit. So Robert's always talking about people who should move to the steeple. Maybe Emmanuel Bohr should go back to the steeple. Well, and speaking of people who should move to the steeple,
McGordy.
Okay, we got McGordy. McGordy to discuss. And Robert's boy, Anthony Rotich, who's going to win a gold medal. Robert's always saying it's about a pat on the back. This podcast is about pat on the back for Rojo. He never talks about his bold predictions that just flame terribly.
Look, have y'all been drinking? Because y'all are just scatterbrained on this. First of all, Hillary Bohr's brother, Emmanuel, yes, is an American runner. He's got another brother that ran in the Olympics for Bahrain.
No, he doesn't. He has another brother called Julius. They all ran at the University of Alabama. But the brother who ran, Bernard Kita, is the athlete who ran at the Olympics for Bahrain. So please don't accuse us of drunkenness, Robert, when you don't have your facts straight.
Oh, excuse me. Bernard Kita's brother ran for Bahrain. Okay. Well, anyways. It's interesting. For the 3rd time in a row, 2 Kenyan-born Americans have qualified for the steeplechase team. I was debating reading a text I got from a top U.S. coach, but I think most would consider it racist. He was very unhappy about that fact. He says, they're stealing our spots, is what he said, and then pointed out that you can get citizenship right away in the WCAP now because we're still considered to be at war because of war on terror. Normalized, you wouldn't get citizenship that quick. Although I don't know how the citizenship works because apparently we're going to talk about the women's 10K next. Wayne Kaladi has U.S. citizenship and she's running for the Olympic team tomorrow. I don't understand how she can get it, but Chelimo can't. But Cheswick can't, and they have the same agent. So I wonder what the hang up is on Cheswick. It seems very weird to me.
There's some commentator saying he's trying to join the supporters club and that the Shelby Houlihan's splash page is still on the homepage. The splash page is only supposed to show once. It must be a problem with his cookies. I didn't even know it was still active. We need to really turn that off. Robert, can you do that before you go to sleep?
Wait, can we talk about McGordy, though? Because this is the thing. When Sean McGordy moved to the steeplechase, I was like, wow, it's not that strong of an event this year. Evan Jager, we don't know if he's going to be around. Cabene, who is the second fastest American ever, he's not running it this year. Everything's set up for McGordy to get on the Olympic squad. He might not be able to make it at 5K, but he's so talented. 13:06, 7:37 in the 3K and 5K. He should be on this team, right? And no, I mean, he ran great. He ran better in the prelims than he did today. He ran 8:25 in the prelims, losing his shoe cost him 10 seconds. He ran 8:27 today. Granted, the races it's probably around the same winning time. But anyway, I think this is just a lesson. Like McGordy, I think he's a pretty athletic guy, but it's not as easy as we think. Just taking out the steeple and your talent's going to win out and you're going to be able to make a team. Some people can do it, but it's not just a given. And Sean McGordy, he was 7th today. He wasn't really a factor. That's my take on this. Is I think I earned a new respect for steeplechasers after the events of this week with Sean McGordy.
I don't. I just was very disappointed in McGordy. I picked him to make my team. I thought this was a terrible performance. But when I make an excuse for it, what I say that the weather doesn't matter on steeplechase, but when it's like 90 degrees, maybe it does matter if you're a big dude. It's like a physics thing. Big people do not do well in the heat. So he's big, right? Is he like over 6 feet? I think that's why he didn't.
Have you seen
well.
Mihalski? Mihalski's, about the same size as McGordy. He can't be. He's probably around the same weight and maybe like an inch or two shorter, but they're about the same.
Okay,
I
a couple
like how
things.
McGordy said he wants to go to Europe to run fast because he ran the equivalent of 8:15 in the prelims. There's no excuse for him today. This was an abomination of a performance. It was really bad, and I just thought it was terrible. But yes, I did get it wrong on my boy Anthony Rotich. Remember, he got U.S. citizenship a couple years ago. He won the road 5K. He won the cross-country title. I'm like, he's going to be dominating. And what's interesting is on Let'sRun.com, we broadcast those American record attempts. Bernard Keeter and Bohr were both like scrubs in those events. Keeter ran 13:56 on March 14th and was a DNF on March 18th. He went through the 5K 8:07. And then Bohr ran 13:26 in the first one. Okay, that's decent. And then was a DNF on the second one, although he ran 7:53 for 3K. I think in 7:53, he was pretty pleased with that. His PR was like 7:48, but you don't have to be rocking it in March, I guess, to be doing well in June.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw Hillary Bohr running, 13:20s, that was at the indoor race, Robert, you were at? I mean, that's just like, what happened to that guy? To McGordy, a couple things. The heat maybe is an issue. I'm like, okay, maybe he's not a good heat runner. I started thinking of that. But the champions usually find a way to do it. I was a terrible heat runner. And then John started talking about nationals being in Sacramento Olympic trials. That's my excuse for getting lapped at the 2000 Olympic trials in 10K. I was a bad heat runner. So I have a little sympathy for Sean McGordy, but I think he pulled a Jenkins. I think the pressure got to him. He said he sort of like disengaged, the gap broken up. I just think mentally I don't know. It's kind of, I don't want to use the word choke, but I just feel like mentally he wasn't there. And it's hard to say that with some of these athletes. He's new to the event, that sort of stuff. But the confidence, something was lacking. He didn't deliver when it counted. And, because I think he would have had a pretty good shot in this 5K. The 5K field, Chulima looked pretty good, but it's 13:06 guy's got a shot. That's all I'll say.
But I'm also willing to look, he'd run 2 steeples before the trials. This was the 4th steeple of his life. And we're all, the natural comparison is to Jager because he's the same training group, same coach, did the same thing. He took up the event in Olympic year. And then by the end of that year, he had broken the American record. Or maybe it was 2013. I don't remember exactly when he got the American record. I think it was 2012. And now he's the best steeplechaser ever from the United States. And we think, oh man, that's the pattern that McGordy should be following. Sometimes it takes some time. I mean, it took Andy Bayer, 5 years to make his first Worlds team. It's just
no. But John, I don't want another Andy Bayer. No offense to Andy Bayer. I need a guy who's going to be a Jager. I want Americans being the best.
Okay,
sure
so you want
there's-
another guy who's the best American steeplechaser of all time?
Yes. Yes. I want the
That's
Americans
all-
to be the best in the world.
Okay.
That's my expectations. I don't want to be like a France where you have like spares. Well, France is pretty good at steeplechase. Germany, where they're like the steeplechasers are like mediocre guys. I want the guy who's going to be a world beater. I want the woman who's going to be a world beater as a fan. I don't really care. Like as someone who loves track and field, I can appreciate the person battling for the Olympic team, the Olympic drama. You know, Leah Fallon, I think, is probably one of the things I remember most from this trials. But like as a spectator, I'm looking for like Hillary Bohr won a Diamond League. Okay, that's good. But if Mihalski, if he makes this team, I'm not thinking like, oh yeah, America's steeplechase problems were signed. I'm like, oh, it's a nice story. He made the Olympic team.
Well, Bohr might be one of the American men's best medal chances because he's already beaten the Kenyan champ in Gateshead. Ethiopia looks like their best steeplers, maybe running the 5K. Wally should do both, but we're not. You can't. I don't know. You can't count on the Africans making the right decision on some of the stuff. If they're going to leave Timothy Chariot off the Kenyan team, who knows what's going to happen? So, congrats to him. Congrats to Ketor, Mason Froelich, who I recruited to Cornell, by the way, folks. It's like 1 degree of separation. I've got my fingers in all these people making the teams. But let's move to tomorrow's final. 10 a.m. You guys will wake up, head over to the stadium. Women's 10,000 final. Who do you guys have? To me, this is an interesting race. We've got Cranny and we've got Schweizer coming back from the 5,000. They went 1-2. They have the top 2 seed times in this race. They're also the only 2 women in this race, I think, with a 5,000 meter PR under 1450, and they have the best 2 1,500 meter PBs. I don't see there's any reason why they wouldn't make this team, except it's going to be hot as hell, and they've already made the team, so maybe they're not as motivated to gut it out and really. You got to want it in this heat. And Schweizer's not as great. She's never loved the 10K as much as the 5K, but I think they're on the team. The question to me is who gets third, and by using that criteria of who's got the qualifying time and who's broken 15 minutes, there aren't that many people who sort of fit both bills. I put you've got Emily Enfield. It could be a Bowerman sweep. You've got you could have the same team as the 5K team, right? Rachel Snyder. But, Emily Sisson was the big name that jumped up there. I mean, she's great at the half marathon. She's made the teams in the past. She's broken 15 like 3 times this year, but she hasn't run 14 low, right? What's her best 5,000 this year? It's like 14.
I think she's run 1451, 1450. I think 1452 maybe behind.
So that is low, but
yeah, pretty quick.
So she's going to want it fast. She doesn't even have a 1,500 meter PB. So I ended up picking Schweizer, Cranny, Schweizer, and Sisson, but I'm not convinced. It wouldn't shock me if Enfield it makes it. I mean, my understanding was Enfield is she was behind. I mean, she did PR. She's a bronze medalist in this event. She has PR in the 10,000 this year, but she was like 10 seconds behind these girls. Like middle of May in a 5,000 and dropped out of 4K, and then she did run like 15-17. But 15-17 is not going to make the team. But sort of the theory is she's come down from altitude. She was way behind them. She's catching back up, but does she have enough time? And if you're looking for a long shot for someone who does not have a PB under 15 minutes, I think you got to go with the Anna Cubs, Alicia Monson. Ritz has talked her up so much. They've clearly been bringing it. But 407 PB is not as good as the people like Schneider. So I didn't see that. And then last minutes, Wayne Collada. Again, if you're going with my theory, bigger people don't do well on the heat. She's tiny. She's broken 15. She's run 14:58. She could be in the mix.
Yeah, we didn't even have her in the prediction contest. I'm looking at the Running Warehouse prediction contest. Cranny was 1. This is for the win. Schweizer 2nd. Sisson 3rd. Enfield 4th. They're the only one getting 10% of votes. Then Sarah Hall, who would be a crazy long shot story if she could make it. I just feel like she's too outclassed on the track, but she keeps getting better with age, which is crazy. Then Edna Kurgat. I think Kaladi would be somewhere in here. And Alicia Monson only getting 2%. That's for the win. Ritz is very bullish on her. I texted Ritz earlier in the week and said, "Hey man, great job with Joe Klecker. Just got in Eugene. Just want to congratulate you." And he wrote me back this morning and was like, "Oh, thanks, man." And just gutted about Leah, but got to focus now on Alicia. I mean, sound like they only win for the 10K. He thinks she's a 10K runner. he said she's in 1440 something shape. I mean, that's crazy. If that's the case, then just put her on the team. I mean, that's like Sisson infield level, even though they bring their A game. The heat's going to be the question mark. Let's check Dark Sky here. The race is at 10. It's sort of interesting because they're still trying to keep it kind of hot, because you could run it at 8 and it's not nearly as hot. Like, it really cools off here, and Eugene's still in the mornings. So there was some talk like, oh, we want to get them ready for Beijing. I guess that's what some of the performance people said.
Why Beijing?
I mean, Tokyo. But so tomorrow at 10 a.m., it'll be 82 degrees. By 12 p.m., and the sun will probably be out pretty good. By 12 p.m., it's 90. So, it'll be 82, probably like 85 by the end of that race. At 8 a.m., it's 73 degrees. And if you weren't at 8 a.m., it's a walk in the park for these people. So the heat's going to be a factor. I don't know. Like, were any of them getting, all these people train at altitude? Is anyone pulling the rup and getting ready for heat? Alberto's people will be ready for the heat. I'll say that much.
Sisson's based in Phoenix or Scottsdale, so she'll probably be okay. I think I like Monson. I mean, look, here's what we know. Ritz was hyping Joe Klecker, thinking it was a big deal. He made the team. He's saying that Alicia Monson is in sub 1440 shape and that he doesn't think that's her best event. I'm kind of buying what he's selling right there. Maybe I've been taken in by the on-road to the trials, but I kind of think Monson's on the team. Cranny looked great. I think, Schweizer, again, has sort of struggled with the 10K a little bit. I mean, she is like, what, 4th fastest in U.S. history, so she's clearly not that bad. I mean, would I be surprised? Would I be shocked if Cranny and Schweizer went 1-2 again? No. But I kind of think Monson, I think Cranny, and then I think Emily Sisson. She's a great 10K runner. She's made the last 2 teams. She's been running great in all of her races this year. I think that's your team, Monson, Cranny, and Sisson.
You think Monson's going to win it?
I think she could. I kind of want to go bold. This is my big prediction contest. Like, I'm going to vault into first place, and don't steal my picks, Robert or Weldon, because the race doesn't start till tomorrow morning. But I mean, yeah, I picked Monson for the win.
Wow. I mean, I've been walking around town with my on shoes, getting some comments, saying my loyalty's been purchased. I'm just doing what everyone in Fairfield County in Connecticut's doing as well, walking where I live, walking around with on shoes. But maybe there's some secret payments went to John. Like, that's pretty bold to pick Alicia Monson to win.
Gotta go bold sometimes, Weldon.
Cranny, I mean, like, what's there not to like about Cranny?
Nothing. I mean, she's the number 3 in U.S. history. She won the 5K. That was pretty warm conditions, winning it. I just think maybe 3 races in a week, they're a little bit more tired. Monson's totally fresh. I don't know. Look, again, I said it wouldn't be shot by another Bowen 1-2, but I kind of wanted to do something bold.
Robert, you're muted.
I think in this race, we're going to find out whether she really is the future of just running like Rich thinks or not. I mean, is he just talking big and wants to play his runners up? But his runners have brought it, so I'm going to give him some of the benefit of the doubt. But I didn't change my pick because I want Emily Sisson to make an Olympic team. I just think it's kind of a disgrace. She deserves it. She's quite good. But she's going to want this pace, to be honest. And I just had to update the women's preview. When we wrote it, we had a bunch of women in red. Those are the women with sub 15 minute 5,000 PBs, but for some reason when it published, the red didn't show up, so I just put an asterisk next to their names. But those women are Alicia Cranny, Kirsha Schweizer, Emily Enfield, Emily Sisson, and Rachel Snyder. And then some of the other and also Wayne Colati, now that she's in there. So it should be exciting. Can't wait to it, guys. It's at 1:30 here. I'm out of here to go to bed. Have fun. I know, tomorrow.
Robert, but do we have like 1 minute to talk about the freaking 17-year-old who ran 20:04 in the 200 today? Because I feel like we should kind of mention Arian Knighton. The first heat of the 200, me and Weldon are sitting outside the stadium getting some barbecue. We're sort of waiting. We're like, oh, do we even go in for the first heat of the 200? Are we going to see anything? Then he's like, hey, Fred Curley and Noah Lyles are in this heat. And I'm like, oh, we should go in. We sort of shovel the food in our face. We sprint up there. And then they announced like, oh, yeah, Arian Knighton's also in this race.
Wait, Curly was in that one? I didn't even see him.
Yeah, man.
Need to look at that result, actually.
So then coming down with 100 to go, it was, Lyles and Arian Knighton battling it out. They're level. And Knighton just accelerates away. Lyles lets him go. Knighton runs 20:04, wind legal. This is the fastest time, world under 18 record. It's also breaks Noah Lyles' 20:09 high school record from the 2016 trials. It was pretty cool. Lyles was in second. I don't think Knighton even knew how fast the record, like he didn't know he broke the record until Noah Lyles, in the middle of their Zoom interviews, Noah Lyles yells over to him, "Hey, Arian, you broke my record, man. You're in 20:04." So that was crazy. And the Knighton was like, yeah, I was going pretty hard. But the other thing was, Knighton said, yeah, I was holding back a little bit. Like, my goal is to get through the rounds. So could we see a sub 20 by a high schooler? Could this guy make the team in the 200 at age 17? I think it's totally possible after what we saw today.
I mean, it was impressive. He definitely went off. He's like looking around, coasting, and smoking Noah Lyles running 20:04. But then when you look at what the other guys ran, these veterans are probably pretty smart. Noah's like, I didn't want to waste any energy. He runs 20.19. Isaiah Young, 20.21. Kenny Bednarik has run 19.8 this year or something, 20.22. So these guys, Travis Laird is like super good, 20.44. So I think the veterans sort of know how to do it a little better, maybe. So I maybe shouldn't put too much stock in the 20:04 coasting.
Yeah.
But he was coasting, and there was a lot in that tank.
He was looking around. He looked left. He looked right. And then he's just sort of eased across the finish line. I mean, this guy can break 20 seconds right now.
It was amazing. And again, it is the big story from this trials. I mean, Donovan Brazier's bombed out, but Noah Lyles. By the way, I think we're going to hear soon. You heard it here first. Brazier's much more hurt than people say, than you think. And John, you need to get to the bottom of that. So call me after we hang up. But
well, Craig Engels basically said in his interview, he kind of said the same thing. Like, I asked how tough was it? So he's like, I get more, upset watching Brazier race, or what, more hyped watching Brazier race than I do my own race. And he's like, yeah, he's been more hurt than I think he realized. That he had an Instagram story where Brazier was walking around in crutches and a boot. They got an MRI. We haven't got publicly the results back yet, but yeah, Donovan I don't think was close to healthy, and that's going to be confirmed shortly.
Well, that's good. But if Noah Lyles doesn't make this team, it's going to be a shock. But he's got his hands full. By the way, Norman didn't run today, did he?
Is that Robert?
Did Michael Norman run?
No, he scratched the 200.
So that helps Lyles a lot. Helps a lot. But
you still got four really good guys. Look, you got Arian Knighton, you got Noah Lyles, you got Kenny Bednarik, you got Terrence Laird, and you got Fred Curley. So actually, I think that's five guys I just named there. Only three can make the team. And Curley's already on the team. The other four aren't. So it's going to be tough to get on that 200 team.
All right, guys. Well, before we leave.
Wait. Well, one other thing. People want to know about this false start fiasco. It was crazy. So the 110 hurdles, they had like 6, John? Was it more?
No, they said 6 on the broadcast. There was 4. They called them back 4 times. So they finally got it going on the 5th start. And then the very next sprint race, that was the final heat of the men's 110 hurdles. The next sprint race was the first heat of the 400 hurdles. They called them back 3 times. So it was just like starter's apocalypse. I don't know what was going on. Either the starter needs to be fired or the timing system was totally screwed, because there was one full start across all of those like crazy restarts. It was just a joke. The fans were booing. I can't remember have you ever heard fans boo at Hayward Field? But they were booing the officials and the timing system for all these delays.
I mean, if that happens in 110 degree heat, people are just going to lose it. They should probably just honestly stop listening to the gun. Just go old fashioned way. Look at people, see if they false start, and go that way, because it's that unreliable. It's messing up the competition.
But they're not
some other guy
listening to
actually
the
false
gun.
started on the 5th one or 4th one. He got disqualified. People didn't realize what happened. That guy should have really protested or just walked down the center of the track. The crowd would have gone nuts.
They're not listening to the gun. They're going off the computer system, which obviously was flawed, which is the whole reason why, if you want to believe Shelby Houlihan should get off, why people can't make mistakes. Machines do make mistakes. So, all right, that was crazy. But we do have one important thing. We haven't even mentioned it. We've been talking for more than an hour. But I love to do the following on all podcasts.
We know where this is going.
folks, we want to say good night to the Olympic aspirations in 2021 for both Mo Farah and Hobbs Kessler. If you're not familiar with Farah, he couldn't get the standard tonight. But by the way, how stupid is it that he has to get the standard? How stupid?
What do you
is
mean?
it
How stupid is it? It's the Olympic standard. We've always had a qualifying standard
Defending champion should be allowed. If
The
your country
defending
wants to send
champion
you-
should
from
be
5 years ago.
Yes.
Yes.
Say. Well, actually, I would be in favor if Usain Bolt just showed up in Tokyo and said, "I'm running the 100." I mean, how awesome would that be? But
John doesn't know how to market anything. John, you need to go to sleep. Well, make sure he does not go to
That
attack
comment there from Carl Winter, our intern. I have a question for Carl. We can discuss this offline. It always says student and everything. Like his email says student, but like YouTube, is that like a rule? Is this like a Pepperdine rule? It's got to say student. And Carl's getting ready. He's probably the favorite for 2024. I think Robert's going to coach him to steeplechase. We haven't made the announcement to probably turning pro soon. Actually,
don't turn pro because we got
him in trouble with Pepperdine probably.
If Hawker and Nagus turn pro, NCAA favorite 2022, Carl Winter, right?
Oh, it's true. He's going to win the 1500, then go pro. So I think that's a wrap for tonight.